Hello, Professor. So today I'm going to be discussing the WorldCom scandal. Now, WorldCom scandal is probably one of the most infamous cases of white collar crime. There's a lot of information pertaining to it, and the devastation it caused on the economy was pretty astronomical, which is the reason why I chose this case. So let's get started. So, a little introduction. WorldCom was the second largest telecommunications company at the time. It was second only to AT&T, which is still in business today. Its stock was declining prior to the scandal, which I'll discuss later. The scandal lasted from 1999 up until mid 2002 when it was discovered. And the CEO, Bernard Ebbers, was the mastermind behind the scandal. He and several other senior executives of the company were behind it. And the scandal enlarged the company to approximately $11 billion in net worth. Now, a little bit of the background. Some of the main players of this scandal are obviously the CEO, Bernard Ebbers, Scott Sullivan, which is the finance chief, which obviously, when dealing with finances, that's a critical area. And the dynamic between the two is also very interesting, which I'll explain later. And our protagonist of this whole scandal, Cynthia Cooper, was the vice president of the internal audit team. Now, a little bit about WorldCom. It was started by the CEO, Bernard Ebbers, back in 1983. It was under a different name at the time, and obviously it was a telecommunications company that competed with AT&T and Verizon. At the time, the scandal was the largest in the United States. It be the Ebnon scandal, which was just a couple years before that, and the company filed for bankruptcy in 2003, which was honestly just a year later after the scandal was discovered. Some of the criminal acts involved are securities fraud, and this has a lot to do with the stock market and messing with the stocks and messing with investors, investments. Falsifying account statements, which is falsifying these documents in order to facilitate having stocks that are telling pretty much a lie on how much they're actually worth. And then conspiracy. So the executives, CEO Bernard Evers, they all conspire to commit this crime together and work together and make it happen. Now, the fraud was revealed in June 2002. An internal audit team led by Cynthia Cooper. She was the vice president of the internal audit team. She was the one that pretty much, discovered something fishy was going on, and her team, day and night discovered that there was $3.8 billion worth of fraudulent accounting sheets, and they ended up confronting Scott Sullivan about it, and then it went to court later. So, in terms of the sentencing details, the trial lasted from 2002 up until 2005 when Ebers was officially sentenced. He got 25 years. And his defense was pretty weak. It was largely based around the premise that he was unaware of what was happening. He kind of just played dumb about it. And he was actually blaming his finance chief, Scott Sullivan, for the fraud, which is pretty interesting to note because if he's blaming someone for something like that, then he obviously had that kind of scapegoat in the back of his head. So he was probably thinking to himself, like, oh, if I get caught, I can just blame Sullivan for the ordeal. And on March 15th, he was officially sentenced to 25 years for a total of 9 felonies. One of the felonies was obviously for securities fraud. The other was conspiracy, and then the other 7 accounts were for falsifying those documents. Now, the category of white crime obviously is securities fraud. It covers a wide range of illegal activities that essentially rip off investors and people who deal with the stock market. In the case of WorldCom, they figured they could not only save the company, which was somewhat declining at the time, but they also wanted to profit off the scandal as well. Now, some of the misleading information caused by the crime, the most devastating thing to happen as a result was the investor shares. So people were losing, thousands and thousands of dollars of their money thinking the company was doing great. So they were holding, they were buying, and it was all for nothing. Not only did investors lose their investments, but they lost their confidence in the market, which isn't really a good thing, especially if you want the U.S. economy to do better. But 17,000 WorldCom employees also lost their jobs as a result. The white collar offender and the criminological theory. So a couple of theories that I chose to go with was strain theory. The strain theory technically just puts on people that they need to succeed in life, causing them to achieve it by unconventional means. So like a lot of white collar offenders, they're usually well off. They usually have jobs. They're usually educated, and they don't particularly participate in other white collar or not white collar crimes. They don't participate in other conventional crimes like theft and all kinds of other things. So Ebers may have felt that the strain of the declining company may have prompted him to try and save the company by unconventional means, and he also probably wanted to make some profit out of it at the same time. Now, rational choice theory, individuals use rational calculations to weigh options and decide if their decision was worth the reward. And like a lot of white collar offenders, Evers was a smart individual, and he must have weighed the options to gauge if this was actually a smart move. And based on what happened during sentencing, it's possible he felt that he can throw Scott Sullivan under the bus. He probably thought to himself like, oh, I have a scapegoat right here, and that's essentially what he tried to do. Didn't work. All right. Similar white collar crimes today, according to the Nasdaq, financial frauds are still causing billions of dollars in damage worldwide. The United States controls about 25% of the global GDP, and is likely a significant portion of that statistic comes from the United States. White collar crime in general is still consistently a problem. According to TRAC reports, most white collar crime happen at the beginning of the month, and an estimate in 400 to 800 cases today happen daily. This is a broad calculation, because there's many types of fraud that happen. There's also identity theft that is included. So as a result, the legislation passes. Hopefully I'm saying this right. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. This immediately followed the scandal. Almost immediately after the trial, the United States passed a federal law that ensures that certain practices are conducted pertaining to financial statements and records. So in terms of the documents, it isn't as easy as just filling them out and putting whatever you want on. There's actually a process now. This law was passed in order to protect future stockholders. That's kind of the main goal of this, and it was a result of both the scandals of WorldCon and Enron. And that completes my slideshow. Here are some references, and that's it for my presentation. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much.